media outrage. And unfortunately, in our line of work, there's no social media exception to the search warrant requirement. We are required to do things the legal way, even if that means they take time. I understand that people nowadays want things to happen immediately, and unfortunately, sometimes that just doesn't happen.
Has anything? I'm sorry, Eric. Has anything changed wherein any of those horses might be seized today, or in the?
I don't know. That's all going to depend on what they're doing down there now and what the vet finds when he does his examination.
Do you know exactly what it is the vet is looking at? What types of things do they typically assess?
They have a system that they use to grade the horses that I'm sorry I don't remember what it's called, but they look at a number of things: the withers, the legs. They look at how the flesh responds. Again, I'm not sure of the exact terms they use, but they do have a number of grading scales they use to determine the health of the horses.
Why wasn't a vet called in Friday night?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, at that time we didn't feel that we had the legal backing to call in a vet and to seize the horses at that time.
And do we know if the bones are still in that barn today?
I don't know if all of them are still there. I know that some of them are still there, but as far as which ones have been removed, I'm not sure.
One of the things that's been brought up to us, and we've been talking about social media, is the fact that these horses were in there with those remains. Why wasn't that something that would require a seizure? Why does that condition not come into play?
Because again, as disturbing as it can be, the fact that a horse is dead there is not necessarily against the law.
We saw the owner here on the property. She didn't talk to us, but is there any investigation of criminal wrongdoing against the owner at this point?
At this point, criminal charges are always an option for us, depending upon what we find when we complete the investigation.
You obtained the search warrant now. Is this the first time the El Paso County Sheriff's Office has been in the barn?
No, we were out here Friday in the barn.
Do you know if the owners of the horses have been investigated by El Paso County, or if they've ever been cited for violations prior?
I don't know. I would have to check.
From a personal standpoint, what's it like for you going in there and seeing that stuff?
I'm an animal lover, and I think that's one of the things that people have a hard time with, is we got a lot of questions about our mounted unit and what are their qualifications. The lead member of our mounted unit has been a member of the mounted unit since, I forget what it is, but 16 years ago. And I want to get this right because he told me to say this exact quote. He has been messing with horses since he fell out of the womb. He's been a horse lover and a horse owner his entire life. The joke is that he sleeps in the stall with our sheriff's office horses. If he had seen something at that time that made him concerned enough to call out a vet or seize the horses, he would have done it. We have no issues doing that, even in the middle of the night if it becomes necessary. Friday, we didn't have that, so that's why there was no seizure at that time.
Greg, there's a perception, social media and otherwise, we've been getting emails and whatnot, that the El Paso County Sheriff's Office is they're not taking this seriously enough. How do you respond to that?
I have a very hard time responding to that because earlier this year we have seized horses. We seized 11 horses from a lady last year. We absolutely take this seriously. We have a whole unit of people that does investigations of this nature. We have trained detectives that have been to school to investigate just this sort of crime. This is not an inexpensive proposition for us, and that doesn't matter. It is a crime, and we will investigate it. So yes, absolutely we take this seriously.
So conditions
You say,
with,
I'm sorry.
Conditions with live animals, with dead animals, is perfectly okay?
It's not perfectly okay, and obviously there were some concerns there, and that's why we're addressing them today. But there's this outrage that there was a dead horse left on the property. I'm sure if you go to other properties in this county, there'll be dead animals there too.
You said this is a crime, yet no charges are pending.
Based on the completion of the investigation, we'll determine if we're going to file charges or not.
Is the Sheriff's Office planning to involve any other agencies like the Humane Society or DORA in the investigation?
We have a number of large animal rescues that we are involved with if seizure of the horses becomes necessary. And as I said, we have a veterinarian on scene right now conducting examinations.
All the food things at the time, they were completely empty. And what water was here was very little, was just stagnant, black.
Okay.
So
I understand.
they did not
Our investigators came out on Friday and they're telling me that the pictures they took, they had adequate food and water.
That's a
So
lie.
we have
took
pictures
some
to prove
hay
that
out
too
of
that
the
we'll be able to
barrel.
put out at some point.
We took some of the hay out of the bales there to give to the horses at the time before anybody else was there.
Okay. Sir, I am not a familiar 100% with horses. I understand twice a day and they eat it all. I don't know the exact details of that, okay? But I understand if we had seen something that would concern us, we would have seized the animals. Please don't doubt that at all.
I have a question.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. And you are?
I am Diana, the one that found them.
Okay.
is going to be, how can you let those horses walk around decaying corpse? Walking around the decaying and on top of the corpse with lime spread and everything else, and consider that to be humane. Not healthy in any regard.
The only thing I can do at this point is defer to our experts, the mounted unit that went out here, and our investigators that went out here, and they're the ones that made the determination on Friday. I'm sorry I don't have an answer for you. I can go talk to them and see what I can get for you, but at this point I don't have a good answer for that. I'm sorry.
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Keeping horses inside of a barn with no sunlight, no daylight, that's healthy.
What the statute actually says is that they're required to have food, water, and shelter from the elements.
Are you willing to
So,
help us
there you go.
change the law?
You know, if somebody wants to change the law, something different, I'd be happy to investigate that. And I'm also the legislative liaison with the department, so if some citizens group wants to do that, we'll have to look at what they choose to do.
Can you tell me when the
It's
last
been
time-
done in Samson's Law. Are you familiar with that?